Omicron variant is spreading through Europe. Switzerland is the latest country to introduce new curbs on social mixing. From today, life for the unvaccinated there becomes very restricted. Bars, restaurants, theatres, museums, gyms and sporting events are open only to those who can prove they are vaccinated or that they have recovered from the disease. In the UK, ministers are meeting this afternoon to consider whether COVID rules should be tightened ahead of the Christmas holiday. And the business community is understandably alarmed. The British pub chain Young's has warned that thousands of hospitality firms across the country could go bust by January because of a fear campaign and a lack of financial support following the surge of infections. So, what's the mood like in the trade at the moment? A question for Kate Nichols, Chief Executive of UK Hospitality, the body that represents the sector here in the UK.
Well, the mood is pretty bleak at the moment. Over the course of the last 2 to 3 weeks, but more particularly over the last 5 days, we've seen trade drop off a cliff. Businesses are facing, on average, 40 to 60% drop in revenues, so they are trading well below break-even. Cancellation of bookings well into New Year and quarter one, and so without any further additional government support, those levels of trading that we're seeing are simply unsustainable. And of course, Christmas is our most profitable time of year. The sales that are made now are vital to secure businesses through the lean months of January and February, when they traditionally make a loss because it's winter and people don't go out as much. So it really is a bleak midwinter for many in the hospitality sector.
And presumably you understand that the government is saying to people socialise sensibly because of the surge of the variant, but you're saying something different really in terms of your plea to the government in terms of what kind of compensation you might want.
Absolutely. We fully understand that the government needs to give that message to people to take their own risks and to make their own decisions and to prioritise their socialising. There is a gap at the moment between the political statements from ministers and the economic reality that our members are seeing on the ground, where businesses are having to close because they don't have enough demand and trade to be able to keep open, where we are seeing, as I say, businesses losing 40 to 60% of their revenues. Our message to the government is, given everything that is going on, given what we can see in terms of footfall, revenue and numbers, we need support for these businesses now, because effectively they are facing the same drop in trade as they did during lockdowns, during the restrictions. Unless we get support to these businesses now, then sadly we will see many of them fail in the new year and many jobs put at risk.
And what kind of response have you been getting in terms of the kinds of things that you've just outlined you would want the government to do?
Well, we have had constructive and regular ongoing dialogue with ministers throughout this crisis, and particularly on a daily basis over the last 6 days where the situation has deteriorated rapidly. We've explained how much impact we're seeing on the drop in revenue, what that means for jobs, salaries, pay, business viability going forward, and we've set out 3 steps that we'd like them to take to support the industry through this. We're waiting to hear what the response will be.
And the 3 steps are, just very briefly?
We would like to see emergency cash grants given to businesses so that they can pay their staff and manage this period. We want to see 100% business rates relief for all businesses so that they don't have bills going out at the end of the month. And then over the longer term, in order to secure investment and to secure viability for these businesses, we'd like to see the lower rate of VAT retained.
And that's a value-added tax that relates to this country. That was Kate Nichols, Chief Executive of UK Hospitality, the trade body that represents the sector in the United Kingdom, encapsulating the difficulties for government. How much risk do they take with public health and the economy? That's it for this edition of News Hour. Thanks very much for your company this past hour. I'll be back again tomorrow. I hope you'll join me then.
This is the BBC World Service, where we're exploring the potential impacts of artificial intelligence.
Will the progress of AI lead to the end of work?
Artificial intelligence can help humans do a lot of things, but how reliant have we become on it? In his 3rd lecture, Professor Stuart Russell examines the impact of AI on the economy and how the world might adapt as work is increasingly done by machines.
The BBC Reef Lectures at bbcworldservice.com/Reef Lectures. You're listening to the BBC World Service.
Our technology reporter Zoe Kleinman told us more.
I asked our Washington correspondent Chris Buckler what was in this article.
BBC Mondo's Guillermo Moreno joined one of the queues.
Let's speak to our China media analyst Kerry Allen from BBC Monitoring.
This is the BBC World Service on ABC News Radio.
This is ABC News with David Rowlands. A leading doctor who has been involved in COVID-19 vaccine trials says a clearer picture of how the Omicron variant affects people should emerge within a few weeks. Tui Ong has more on this story.
The vast majority of people who have been infected with Omicron in Australia have caught it in the last couple of weeks. Melbourne University's Professor Kim Mulholland says the government should reinstate mask wearing and QR code check-ins even as the weather warms up.
There are plenty of places where the virus has got out of control in summer. Don't worry about that.
Still, he says it's reassuring that there hasn't been a significant increase in mortality associated with the variant. National Cabinet will convene on Wednesday for an emergency meeting to discuss the new strain.
Hospitality businesses across New South Wales have reported widespread cancellations due to the Omicron COVID outbreak. The state recorded 2,501 new cases yesterday, with the Omicron variant being blamed for the recent rise in infections. Ibrahim Mubeda is the co-founder of a Sydney hospitality group and says customers are anxious in the lead up to Christmas.
People obviously book their Christmas functions, their Christmas parties during December when we say goodbye to the year. But this year, unfortunately, towards the last 2 weeks of the year, all their Christmas functions have been cancelled, and people are just simply worried, which is obviously understandable. But unfortunately for the hospitality industry, it means a lot of losses.
The Northern Territory has recorded 3 new local cases of COVID-19, with Tennant Creek's lockdown extended until tomorrow afternoon. Kate Ashton has the details.
The 3 new cases include 2 people from near Barrow Creek, north of Alice Springs. A man and a woman in their 30s tested positive in the Alice Springs hospital after recently spending time in Tennant Creek. The other case is a child from Tennant Creek, a close contact already in quarantine. The Tennant Creek lockdown has been extended by 48 hours until 5 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon, as has a mask mandate for the Barkly region. Meanwhile, the peak body for Aboriginal medical services in the NT is calling for a lockdown of every community in the Barkly region and a mask mandate for indoor venues across the territory.
Britain's Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab says he can't make any guarantees on whether the government will impose further COVID restrictions before Christmas. He says 12 people have died with the Omicron variant so far and 104 are currently in hospital with it. To slow its spread, new rules have been reinstated requiring face masks indoors and COVID passes to enter crowded venues. Mr Raab has told Sky News in the UK that they're continuing to assess the situation.
The rules as they currently are the best mitigation strategy that we've got, but of course there is this time lag in the data. We know Omicron is spreading fast, we don't yet know the severity, and we're reliant on seeing that data come through, and it comes through day by day.
There are growing signs that Libya's presidential elections, scheduled for Friday, will have to be delayed. The BBC's Mike Thompson has the latest.
For some time now, there have been growing calls to delay the polls. With voting due in just a few days, there's still no final list of approved candidates, and bitter arguments continue over those eligible to run and what powers the winner will have. Delaying the elections, which is hoped will help bring peace and stability to this divided, conflict-plagued country, could bring problems of its own.
Returning home, and the WA Supreme Court has begun hearing the Conservation Council's case against Woodside's Scarborough gas development. David Webber has the story.
The Conservation Council is challenging approvals provided by the Environmental Protection Authority. Woodside made a final investment decision to go ahead with the project in November. The council has asserted the EPA permitted approvals to be changed to allow for additional gas to be processed at Woodside's request without further environmental assessment. Acting for the council, Henry Jackson told the court the detrimental effect on the environment by the new proposal needed to be considered by the authority. The hearing is set down for 3 days.
Train drivers across Sydney are striking overnight. They walked off the job at 8 p.m. and will return in an hour's time. Workers are calling for improved pay and safer conditions as part of ongoing industrial action. The rail, train and bus union says the government still hasn't addressed concerns about safety, hygiene and privatisation. They have apologised to commuters for any inconvenience. And in cricket, Australia has won the second test against England by 275 runs. ABC News. Let's have a look at the capital city weather for the day ahead, and Brisbane is going to get to 31 under mostly sunny skies. Looking good in Sydney as well, partly cloudy and 29. Plenty of beach weather around for Adelaide and Perth as well, and Melbourne. Mostly sunny and 26 in both Adelaide and Melbourne. Perth rising to 30 under mostly sunny skies. Canberra will get to 29. It'll be sunny in the nation's capital. Hobart, unfortunately, won't see the sun too much. Cloudy conditions predicted there with a top of 20, while Darwin will at least have the showers easing, and a storm is likely, 33 in the top end.
Here we go for today's number. It's December 20, 2021. 10 balls. Each ball has a number. Numbers 1 through 10. Swirl the numbers. Pick a number. Today's number is 10.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The Build Back Better bill appears to be doomed after Senator Joe Manchin announced Sunday he would not vote for President Biden and the Democrats' signature piece of legislation, the almost $2 trillion package that would expand the social safety net and combat the climate emergency.
If I can't go home and explain it to the people of West Virginia, I can't vote for it. And I cannot vote to continue with this piece of legislation. I just can't. I've tried everything humanly possible. I can't get there.
Manchin chose to make his announcement on Fox News. The news prompted swift condemnation from Democrats, activists, and the White House, which essentially accused the West Virginia conservative Democrat of lying. In a scathing statement, Press Secretary Jen Psaki said Manchin's announcement, quote, represents a sudden and inexplicable reversal in his position and a breach of his commitments to the president and the senator's colleagues in the House and Senate, unquote. Manchin reportedly refused to take a White House call before sinking the bill on TV. Progressive lawmakers called out both Manchin and Democratic leadership for failing earlier this year to keep the bipartisan infrastructure vote tied to a vote on the Build Back Better Act. Congressmember Ilhan Omar tweeted, quote, West Virginia is 50th in